Hi, Roy here with another edition and podcast of The Right Has Left. I am your host, Roy Garden, and on this episode, we're going to be taking a deep dive into some of the goings-on with Donald Trump's properties and some of the things that he's involved with. He just recently increased his membership rates dramatically into Mar-a-Lago, his golf estates that he has, and some other things that he has holdings across this world where, people pay to, rub shoulders with him, and he's just increased his prices dramatically. We've also found out that this so-called gifted jet that he is now assuming and turned into his new Air Force One, he actually knew about this jet beforehand. So there's questions as to the matter of fact is, was this really a gift, or did he know about it and then negotiated some deals with a country that gave it to him in exchange for this, huge millions of dollars, $400 million to be exact, on this decade-old jet that he's now acquiring. So a lot of things going on in the White House, as I like to report on every week. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the main thing that we are going to start with is Trump's new addition to the Social Security. Now, Donald Trump has recently put on a new guy who's a big Wall Street executive to head the Social Security Administration. Now, when he told the agency, the staff that week, when he first offered the job in the Trump administration, he wasn't really familiar with the position. He had to look it up online. That's right. And who are we talking about? We are talking about Frank Bisonato, a former Wall Street executive. And he said that during a town hall with Social Security managers from around the country. The guy had no idea what he had to do in the Social Security Administration. He had to look up on Google even what the hell Social Security was so he could figure it out. He really wasn't even seeking a position in the Trump administration when he received a call about leading the SSA. So he says, and this is a quote, and I'm going to play you the tape here in just a minute. This is a quote. So I get a phone call, and it's about the Social Security. I'm really not, I swear, I'm not looking for a job, Bisonato said, according to an audio recording of the meeting, which was obtained by ABC News. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do? So I'm Googling Social Security, what are my great skills, and I'm one of the great Googlers on the East Coast, and that's what he had to do. So listen to this video, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
And it's about Social Security, and I'm really not. I swear I'm not looking for a job. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do? So I'm Googling Social Security, one of my great skills. I'm one of the great Googlers on the East Coast. But that is the headline for the post. Great Googler in chief, chief and Googler, whatever. By the way, I like to have fun at work. We're allowed to laugh, we're allowed to have fun, we're allowed to know each other's families, we're allowed to be normal. How's that? I'm like, what the heck's the commissioner of Social Security? First, nobody said we're calling you if it was about Social Security, so I'm trying to figure it out.
So isn't that amazing? This just goes on with the television stars that Trump is hiring and or getting appointed by his Republican cronies to work on his Trump administration. Hardly anybody, if anyone, has any real skills to be put into the positions that they have been granted. They're there simply because they are filthy rich or have done special favors for Donald Trump, and so this is how he's paying him back. Get him into the White House, getting these extraordinary salaries, and running our country. This is what you voted for, folks, and this is what you're getting. So this guy from Wall Street has no idea how to run the Social Security Administration, but he's going to go ahead and do it. So having said that, let's move on. So once again, stocks have dropped as Trump goes now. He's going after Apple. Can you believe this? So on Friday, he threatened a 50% tax on all imports from the European Union, as well as a 25% tariff on Apple products, unless iPhones are made in the United States. As you well know, this has already been discussed. If they were to make iPhones in the United States, they would cost over $3,000 a piece, and that has been proven. So the threats were delivered over social media with Trump again, Truth Social, thumping his chest and typing in caps about what he's going to do. And he's very proud that he has the authority to disrupt the global economy with a burst of his little finger typing, as the reality is that the tariffs have yet to produce the trade deals that he has been seeking, or the return on domestic manufacturing he has been promising voters. So the Republican president said he wants to charge higher import taxes on goods from the EU, a longstanding U.S. ally, than from China, a geopolitical rival that has had its tariffs cut to 30% this month, in a deal that he's so proud he said that he has garnered from them. So Washington and Beijing could hold negotiations. Trump was upset by the lack of progress in the trade talks with the EU, which he has proposed mutually cutting tariffs to zero, even as the president has publicly listed on preserving a baseline of 10% tax on most imports. So there you go. An iPhone that you can get for free a lot on if you cut deals with these phone companies like T-Mobile or AT&T. They'll give you a free iPhone. But that may go away if, he gets through to all this and say, hey, we're going to make iPhones and Samsungs and all that. We want to make those in the United States where the prices would go right over the roof. So you'd be pretty happy about that, wouldn't you? Yeah. So this is interesting because the fact of the matter is that there are some good reasons why certain products are made overseas and we can get them at a lower price. There really, really is. And the reason I bring this up is because of the trading and international trading that we have going on. Not every frickin' thing has to be made in the U.S. And if it was, you'd be paying 15 to as much as 50% higher because of the cost of labor here. So be thankful that we do have some things made overseas. Let's move on. So the fired head of the U.S. Copyright Office is now fighting back against the Trump administration in a recent attempt to seize control of the Library of Congress, which, as the name suggests, is a legislative branch agency. Democrats in the House have been already upset about and are ready to take action and raise the alarm after the President Trump abruptly fired the Librarian of Congress and then, days later, the head of the U.S. Copyright Office, which is part of the library. Republican leadership, somewhat surprisingly, has also even nodded in the direction of acknowledging that Trump's actions concerning the agency, which is embedded in the branch, might not, I say again, might not be lawful. Ooh, the Republicans are actually saying that, some of them. Trump fired Librarian of Congress Carla Hayden earlier this month. A few days later, the White House fired the director of the Office of the Copyright Office, Shira Promoter. And the Justice Department announced that one of Trump's closest allies of the DOJ would be replacing Hayden as acting librarian. The moves, of course, are just some of the many actions Trump's executive branch has taken to seize powers from other branches of government that are meant to serve as a check on the president's authority. Now, questions around whether Trump is allowed to fire anyone in the Library of Congress or the U.S. Copyright Office, let alone replace him with his cronies, in an acting capacity, are generally murky. Trump's rationale for the overreach is likely threefold. Trump and those around him are hell-bent on testing the limits of his ability to defy the legislative and judicial branches of the government. Undermining free thought, ransacking education, and attacking academia has emerged as a running theme in his second term. The Trump administration and Republicans generally have emerged as an opportunity of any effort to check the power and the bunglering of AI industry or to contend with the threats it poses to intellectual property, education, critical thinking, and so on. Just days before Trump abruptly fired Promoter, the U.S. Copyright Office had put out a report that it was critical of the U.S. of copyrighted material and training generative AI. The lawsuit names the following Trump allies as defendants: Todd Blanche, Trump's former criminal defense lawyer, and current Deputy Attorney General, who he wants to name as Hayden's replacement, Sergio Gore, the director of the White House Presidential Personnel Office, and Paul Perkins, who Trump wants to replace Perlmutter, I hope I'm not butchering this poor guy's name, as Register for Copyrights. In the suit, she, and I just said he, so it says she. I'm not having a good day, folks, but that's okay. You get what I'm talking about here. So she argues that the Librarian of Congressional legally has the power to remove the Register of Copyrights, not the president, and that the Federal Vacancies Reform Act, which is what Trump's White House is using to justify their power grab, only applies to executive branches of the agencies. So, and again, my apologies for, mispronouncing this woman's name. But as you can see here, the reason Trump is trying to get control of the Copyright Office, specifically the Copyright Office, is so he can move forward with some of the things that he is working with and call it his own. As he moves on and goes out of office, he'll have ownership and copyrights on a lot of the things that he's developing. And that's why he's doing this. If he can get people in there that owe favors to him, they'll move all this stuff forward and say, okay, Trump owns that, or the Trump organization owns that, or this belongs to Trump, blah, 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 blah. You see where he's going with this. So I just want to, basically make this known to folks that what is really going on here. He has a reasons for why he is going forward and doing things that he does, because it is important to him that he has full control of everything basically in the world. That's his ego. He has he's getting the United States into an authoritarian type of government where the last word stops with him. And that even goes over the judicial system and Congress. He wants total control of everything. And that's why he says he doesn't mind, really being a king. So there you go. Let's move on. In other news, Harvard is back in the news again. And here's what's going on. A federal judge just, recently, like a couple days ago, blocked the Trump administration from making Harvard University stop enrolling international foreign students. That's what Donald Trump did. He, again, with a stroke of his pen, signed an executive order that, Harvard University cannot enroll international or foreign students. I am Donald Trump. I say it, so there you go. The final word and the buck stops with me. And you can't do that, Harvard. Well, a federal judge has blocked that, and that was Judge Allison D. Burroughs. She made the restraining order within 24 hours of Trump's orders after Harvard sued the Trump administration for its actions for what Trump tried to do there. They filed a lawsuit, and the judge upheld it. The Trump administration revoked Harvard University's ability to enroll international students in its escalating battle with the Ivy League schools, saying thousands of current students must transfer to other schools or leave the country. You're going to do that. I'm Donald Trump. That's what I say. The Department of Homeland Security announced the action Thursday, saying Harvard has created an unsafe campus environment by allowing these anti-American pro-terrorist agitators to assault Jewish students on campus. See, again, you have one minor incident, therefore they're all doing it. It's just like, the war in Palestine. There are people who support Palestine. They're supporting the people and the mass genocide of those people there because it's just dead wrong. And because, people doing that, well, then they're saying you're pro-Hamas. You can't be pro-Palestine. You just can't. You got to support Israel and anything and everything that they're doing. But people are supporting the people of Palestine, not Hamas, the people of Palestine. That's what all these protests are about, 99.9% of them. They are against the genocide of all of these people losing their lives. And there is nothing wrong with that. It's okay to support the people of Palestine and the mass genocide because they support the people. They are not supporting Hamas, okay? And that goes clear back to World War II. Not every German individual was a Nazi. There were people in East Germany who did not like Hitler, That doesn't mean because you live in East Germany, you were automatically a Nazi. Why do people have to group all these apples together? It's just absolutely ridiculous. You have no common sense. It goes back to America rounding up all the Japanese Americans. I understand the safety of it, but did they really think that because we had Japanese Americans, especially in Hawaii, that everybody was against America because they were, Japanese descent or Asian descent? I wish people would use critical thinking skills and stop lumping all apples together. Anyway, back to my story here. I'm sorry I digressed there, but I had to get that out. It also accused Harvard of coordinating with the Chinese Communist Party, saying it's hosted and trained members of a Chinese parliamentary group as recently as 2024. This means that Harvard can no longer enroll foreign students, and existing students must transfer or lose their legal status, the agency said in a statement. Now, Harvard enrolls almost 6,800 foreign students at its campuses in Cambridge, Massachusetts, accounting for more than a quarter of its student body. Most are graduate students coming from more than 100 countries. So, again, when something happens and it's a minor instance, you punish everybody, it seems like. And this goes on to, back to what I was stating earlier. You cannot lump everything together, ladies and gentlemen. It's just not right to do that. One minor instance doesn't mean everybody's doing it. And why we cannot think about that as what's going on here, I really have no idea. But it's sad that we have to just things together like that, and I don't like it, and but it happens, and it goes back to people who support Palestine. They're supporting the people of Palestine. They're not supporting Hamas. It goes back to the First Amendment right to protest and our Fourth Amendment rights. It goes on and on and on, and they're trying to strip this all away. And it's really damn sad that we have to get to that. But anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to our top story on our podcast, So the Right Has Less. And today we are going to be talking about Trump's crypto dinner, and that he just recently held. And he had this great little coin called Fight that he had really wealthy billionaire people attend. The average investor spent, and I'm not kidding here, over 1,788,909. I mean, is just the figure is just extraordinary here. I said 1 million. It's actually 1,788,994,042 cents to attend this dinner. I said million. I just had to look at that number again. It's actually billions. And to attend this recent crypto dinner, according to analysis by the blockchain analytics company Nansen, which they gave that to NBC News. But the price of admission ranged from $55,000 to $37.7 million. But that's what the investors spent to buy the coins, that huge billion-dollar figure I was talking about. The top 7 winners each spent more than $10 million. The invitation also promised the 25 biggest investors special access to the president via a private reception and special White House tour for the top 25 coin holders. They said that you were invited to an exclusive reception before dinner with your favorite president, the website reads. Plus, we have separately by us arranged for a special VIP tour for you. This is of Mar-a-Lago. So to make sure you stay in town, and spend your money. Now, Democrats and ethics experts blasted the dinner as a blatant corruption meant to enrich the president. The White House pushed back, pointing out that the president's finances are in a blind trust. So, he doesn't have access to that money. It's in a blind trust. So this is perfectly fine. All the president's assets are in a blind trust, which is managed by his children, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said in her press briefing. Poor Caroline Leavitt. She's off in La La Land. She blasted suggestions that the president was profiting off the office. The president is abiding by all conflict of interest laws. Sure he is. And that it's applicable to the president. I think everybody, the American public, believe it's absurd for anyone to insinuate that this president is profiting off the presidency. This president was incredibly successful before giving it all up to serve our country publicly. Not only has he lost wealth, but he has almost lost his life. He has sacrificed to a lot to be here, and to suggest otherwise is frankly completely absurd, she said. Even with that $400 million jet that was gifted to him, that he's turning Air Force One, that will go to his library. I mean, she can say whatever she wants. And I'm going to be transparent here. There has been some other presidents, but, they take advantage of the system. And then when they get out of office, all this wealth reverts back to him. It is true, maybe technically, that, he's setting all this stuff up, and his children are taking marching orders from daddy and how to put this stuff in certain funds and stuff. So when the minute he leaves office, bam, it's all there for him. All these billions, he'll have access to it immediately. And, for right now, he uses American tax dollars to do what he wants to do, and his Secret Service and everything else to get around on the tax dollars dime via Air Force One, and to get all these investments and trade deals set up. He's said it a million times, I work the system. He's proud of it. So anyway, here's where I want to take this little deep dive. As I said, World Liberty Crypto. Now, Trump or his family do not own World Liberty Crypto. They get fees, and I'm talking large fees, to promote World Liberty Crypto, which was kind of part of this whole deal. Now, after getting off to a rocky start, it got a boost of $300 million token purchased by Justin Sun, a cryptocurrency executive who has been targeted by the Securities and Exchange Commission on fraud claims unrelated to World Liberty Financial, of course. Mr. Sun has moved to dismiss the case. As of November, World Liberty claimed to have at least 20,000 token holders who have bought a stake into what the company calls a platform inspired by Donald J. Trump. These purchases were made even though the tokens, at least for now, cannot be resold, meaning they have no immediate value to the buyers. But the purchases made by individuals whose names are not public should generate tens of millions of dollars for payments to the Trump family, according to a company filing. Mr. Trump has already seen the effect he can have on the cryptocurrency market when he announced his pick for SEC chairman, the crypto advocate and lawyer Paul Atkins. Bitcoin valued surged almost above $100,000 for the first time in its history. Mr. Trump immediately moved to claim credit for the milestone. Congratulations, Bitcoiners, $100,000. You're welcome. Together we make America great again, he wrote on his social media platform, Truth Social. Mr. Trump himself, according to his 2024 financial disclosure, owned as much as $5 million worth of Ethereum, a token second only to Bitcoin in popularity. That cryptocurrency has also surged in the value since election, and it's just days before his second inauguration, Mr. Trump and his family directly entered the cryptocurrency businesses themselves. I'm going back to why they had this special invite party that cost millions in Mar-a-Lago just this past few days. For the first time, selling their own new crypto token called Dollar Trump, a deal that generated tens of millions of dollars in transaction fees for potentially billions of dollars for the family through future token sales. This move immediately generated a wave of criticisms of the Trump family from many in the cryptocurrency industry, as well as ethics lawyers. This is because it is generating profits for the family. Again, this fine line that I was just talking about. You know, they're really walking a very thin line of, you know, the family outside of the White House running things for Donald Trump. So you got to be careful here. Now, the new leadership at the SEC is likely to decide on rules what could significantly increase, in particular, the tokens the Trump family is helping sell at World Liberty Financial. Those rules could also pave the way for World Liberty to market its coins to a wider swath of the public, which would potentially generate hundreds of millions of dollars in additional payouts to Mr. Trump and his family. A public traded company presents another avenue for persuasion. Last spring, Trump Media and Technology Group, as I mentioned, that Marjorie Taylor Greene had some interest in, which is the parent company of True Social and the president's-elect I say president-elect, he's not president, is his greatest source of wealth right now. That went public, and when he was doing all these tariffs and things going back and forth, how the price of the company was going up and down, and Marjorie Taylor Greene sold, just a day before on these tariffs announcement. That's called insider trading, which is illegal. But again, the Republicans are just walking away and getting away with it, all of it, because Trump has put his own people in the places that need to be legally so they can do his bidding. When you've got somebody like Pam Bondi, who's now Attorney General, and she just does whatever Trump tells her to do, he's getting away with this all. So, is he smart? He probably is very smart. Is it legal? Probably not. I mean, we're walking some fine lines, but the Democrats have absolutely zero control in Congress, and nobody can do anything, and he owns the majority of the judges. So this is the way it's going to go, ladies and gentlemen. And again, Mr. Trump is the largest shareholder of his media company. The president has amassed a war chest of $600 million in political donations, and that's not including these recent fundraisers that you see going on. And again, as his press secretary said, this recent event at Mar-a-Lago, he was not acting as president of the United States. This was a private affair that he, since he lives there, was hosting, okay? It's all perfectly legal, according to her. It's an unprecedented amount of money in modern politics, particularly for a president who's now lame duck, and he's barred by the U.S. Constitution from running again. Although he wants to change that too, he thinks he should be able to go for a third term. He's keeping a very aggressive fundraising schedule with the ultimate goal of raising $1 billion or more to back his agenda and hold the House and Senate next November, according to the people who spoke on a condition of anonymity. Don't mention my name, to share the internal details of the fundraising efforts that's going on with Trump. So, and I'm going to show you one more graphic here that's interesting, that you might find an eye-opener. These are some of his conflict of interest, that is going on here. As you can see by this graph, courtesy of the New York Times, it's this is all the stuff that he has done to make money. Now, some of them have bombed and some of them have done quite well. We just talked about the cryptocurrency. And it's a common interest that he owns hotels across the world, including Russia and in the Middle East, and his licensing deals. And this is where he says, which is legal. He a lot of this stuff, he is leasing out his brand or his name. He doesn't own the property directly. He gets a lot of money for just sticking his name on stuff. So that's where a lot of this stuff comes from. So, is it legal or is it okay? Well, we don't know. We will never know until he probably gets out of office, and some people then maybe have the clout to, go after some of this stuff. But it's just really crazy. So again, let's move on to some other news. Yes, the House has finally got their big, beautiful bill through. And now I'm going to talk to you about this big, beautiful bill and what's really going to happen about it. This is going to cause about 13.7 million people to become uninsured because of the butchering of Medicare and Medicaid. Okay? Access to care with this bill, if it passes the Senate. And this is a key thing, folks. Don't get too scared yet. Even though the House has passed Trump's big, beautiful bill, it's got to go to the Senate. And the Senate, of course, is going to dissect it and then create what they want. And then it's got to go back to the House and back to the Senate again. So we are a ways away from anything actually happening. But you need to be contacting your particular representative or senator and tell them what you really think about all this. Will they listen to you? If they're going to look at themselves, am I going to be loyal to Donald Trump and all this, little side pocket money I'm making off since I've been here and he's come into office? Or am I going to listen to my constituents that elected me? You kind of got to know where they're going to go with most of this, because right now everybody that's in Congress is so far indebted to Donald Trump that it's not funny. And, even to the point of if they don't vote the way he wants them to vote, there could be some things going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. So, but you put them in office, ladies and gentlemen, and they're supposed to listen to you. But, Medicare and Medicaid getting cut and Social Security getting cut is going to affect a lot of people. They say it's not going to touch the seniors, that they're actually going after people who are under 65 that quote unquote abuse the system. That's what the Republicans are saying. But let's get back to this. The bill's going to raise costs and jeopardize care for many who manage to keep their health coverage. It would strip low-income Medicare beneficiaries of critical financial assistance, making it harder for them to pay for care and prescription drugs, impose new out-of-pocket cost requirements on some Medicaid enrollees, and drive up premiums and cost sharing for people in the marketplace plans. He doesn't like Obamacare, never have, never will, says he can come up with a different plan. Other policies target specific populations. It will reduce affordability and access care for immigrants, transgender people, women, and people in need of reproductive health services, as well as put older adults and people with disabilities at risk by removing life-saving nursing home staffing requirements. They want to cut that. And as you know, they never did care about the LGBTQ community or people who are transgender. They don't think they should get any kind of health benefits. And some other things I'm talking about that's not in here is HUD, the Housing and Urban Development. They provide a lot of federal assistance to these apartment complex owners. They offset the cost of the monthly leasing and rental rates. HUD does to help create some affordable living conditions. Trump wants to totally cut out HUD and leave it up to the states to figure out a way to offer assistance for these apartment complexes. So if it's, let's say, you're paying, say, $800 a month because of HUD for an apartment, and he's cutting that, if the property owners want to, and you can guess damn well straight they will, that $800 a month apartment can easily go up to $1,500 a month or more, and those people cannot afford it. And if the states don't step in, they're out on the streets. And don't say I'm full of crap, because I'm not. It is absolute truth. Tax cuts of disproportionately benefit high-income earners. Proponents of the bill claim these changes are necessary to pay for tax cuts, which they say will benefit Americans broadly and counter losses to the health coverage and food assistance. Yes, they want to cut SNAP as well. But independent experts, they say they disagree. A separate CBO analysis this week concluded Americans who make that least amount of money would be worse off under the bill. Millions and millions of people live on Social Security, and that's all they got. These same people, millions of them, cannot work. They are disabled. They are seniors. They're on canes, wheelchairs. They may have a physical or emotional or a mental issue that allows them where they cannot work. And that's what the Republicans want to do. They say, You know, you can get off your old butt and work, you know, pull up yourself by the bootstraps. You can do something, go to McDonald's and work or something. You need to offset this. We're not going to give you a free ride. These people are not getting a free ride. You know, they worked all of their life for Social Security, and they actually got disabilities. And for these individuals and families, its tax changes would not outweigh its cuts to the health care and SNAP. Americans who make the most, however, would see with windfalls and lower taxes. Again, it's the wealthy, the upper 1% these tax cuts are for, and they want to take all these trillions of dollars. They want to put it into ICE. They want to put it into the wall. They want to put it into defense, and they're going to suck these so-called entitlement programs down to about nothing so they can take that money and put it in for other things, you know. The Trump administration, they simply want people who are healthy, who can work, and so they can make the jobs, and so the rich can get richer and the poor can get poorer. If you are a senior and cannot work, or if you are an LGBTQ person or anything else, they don't want anything to do with you. That's what it's basically coming down to. For Americans who make the least amount of money, its tax changes would not outweigh its cuts to health care and SNAP, as I just mentioned. Medicaid and cuts under new requirements. The legislation contains one of the largest Medicaid funding cuts in modern history, projected to be nearly $700 billion, folks. I'll say that again, $700 billion by the CBO. That includes stricter work requirements for able-bodied adults under 65, which begin on the last day of 2026, creating new rules and paperwork for those on Medicaid. You know, again, even if you are limping or you may have some kind of disability and you're in a wheelchair, well, can't you get in that wheelchair and roll right up to a desk and do something, you know, for 20 hours a week? Can't you, huh? It also adds more frequent eligibility checks for addresses verifications provisions to verify legal status and beneficiaries. Recommended politics, Trump administration, other things are going on. He's going to say that the European tariffs would face 50% increases, and it just goes on and on. But these proposed cuts, and again, I'm saying, as I mentioned at the top of this discussion, this stuff is just what the House has passed, and it's got to go to the Senate. The Senate may not like any of this, even though the Republicans control the Senate. They may say that, hey, you haven't gone far enough, or you're going too far. You know, they got to answer to their constituents. Now, like here in Florida, millions of seniors live here. And yes, millions of these seniors that live here are filthy freaking rich, and they don't care about any of this stuff. Even though they may be drawing Social Security, they still have investments and everything else. They own property. They don't give a crap, and they're Trump supporters. But there are a lot that live here that are living on paycheck to paycheck, and that paycheck is simply Social Security and nothing else. They just never had it, you know. Due to no fault of their own, they never made a ton of money. And they need Medicare. They need Medicaid. And these people are going to be in trouble. And then with the cuts in HUD, they may be living in HUD-supported housing. And if they cut that, they're going to be out on the streets because they have no money. So, like I said, it sends a signal that the Trump administration does not care about anybody except hardworking, able-bodied people. If you are over 65 and you can't work, go to the North 40, go die. I don't care what you do, just get out of our way. We want people who can work. The same thing with this little bill about creating babies, you know. We want families to create babies so they can grow up and work for the big guy. You know, George Carlin had a lot of good stuff on this back, you know, years ago, and it's all coming to face today, and it's actually true. You have to listen to some of that. But again, it just blows me away that, you know, you're seeing some of this stuff. And I don't know what we can do about that. But, you know, this budget proposal is $32.9 billion. And like I said, it also refers to cutting HUD. And folks, it's just scary. I really don't know how else to say it except that it is. I don't know what they're going to do about it. All right, let's get into some other final news here. We're going to talk a little bit about the Supreme Court. They actually did something once for once that's actually very smart, An evenly divided Supreme Court on this Thursday upheld a lower court decision that invalidated a contract approved by Oklahoma statewide charter school board that establishes the nation's first religious charter school. They block an effort in a closely watched case that posed a test for the separation of church and state. The high court split 4-4, which leaves in place the decision of the Oklahoma Supreme Court. Justice Amy Coney Barrett did not participate in the case. The higher court issued a one-line unsigned decision stating the judgment is affirmed by equally divided court. They blocked it, and so that's not going to happen. So, that's a good thing, I guess. I say I guess because the fact of the matter is that, they're going to continue to try to go on and do something else. And the Supreme Court, I think, and I say I think, is maybe waking up a little bit. And they're actually beginning to see how Trump's playing them a little bit. And they may start taking some stronger stands on things, and we'll have to just wait and see. Anyway, that's my edition of my podcast of The Right Has Left. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to your comments. And again, I rag a lot on this current administration. I was a Republican for 52 years, and I like a lot of us Republicans, I left the party because the fact of the matter is this guy is way out there, and he's literally out of control, and nobody's controlling him. That's why he wanted it. That's why he set it up. I know the people elected him, but they, whether they have no critical thinking skills or what, but they were not thinking that this was going to happen the way he's doing things right now. And I knew this was coming down, so a lot of other people. So I'm not surprised, and I know there's not a lot anybody can do about it because the Democrats don't have any control. I don't have to wait till midterms to see if they do get back at least the House. They may not get back the Senate, but it looks very good that they may get back the House. So I don't care how much money Trump spends. The voters are the voters, and again, they're trying to even control that, how people vote and where they vote and who can vote. So they're doing all they can. Anyway, thanks for joining me on this edition of The Right and Left. Until next time, you try to have a good week. This is Roy Garden talking to you.